and welcome to day 19 of the trip. And today I am heading from Elk to Jenner, which is the longest trip so far. It's 6.5 hours, and I don't know if mileage wise is the longest number of miles, but hours wise is the longest number of hours. And the reason for it is because there are lots of uphills and downhills, so I have to go 3,500 feet up and come 3,500 feet down on the way, and the biggest part of the uphills happen right at the very end of it. So today is gonna be one of the hardest days, and also the place that I'm checking in only checks in people between 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. So I have to get to my destination before 6 p.m. It's a 6.5 hour ride, and right now it's 10 a.m. So if I don't rest, I'm gonna get there by 4:30, and the maximum hours of rest I can get is 1.5 hours. Also, here's another problem. If I use my batteries, if I use my motor at 40%, I only have 66 miles range maximum, more around 60 miles range with all 3 batteries I have with me. But that venue is 70 miles away. Now normally I use the bike at 20%, but today I feel very weak, and I'm still sick from the cold that I caught a few days ago. And I was watching yesterday's video, and pretty much every sentence I was saying yesterday I was coughing. Now I know I don't have COVID because I've done a COVID test, but certainly I have some sort of cold, and so I'm dealing with the weakness of the body. I have to ride the longest ride of the day, of the entire trip. Normally I wouldn't decide to ride 6.5 hours on such uphills and downhills, but the reason I had to do it is because I couldn't find any other accommodation. So this is the closest accommodation I was able to find. Now there are some campgrounds, but they didn't have any plugs for me to plug in the bike. So this is the part that I wish I had a better bike instead of having an e-bike. So certainly there are all these considerations when you're planning a trip, whether to go with an e-bike or a bike. I tell you, just because you're riding an e-bike doesn't mean you have an easier time. Lots of people make that mistake, especially people who have never had an e-bike or rode an e-bike for a long distance trip. People always consider e-bikes as like, yeah, you just sit on an e-bike, put full power and go. Well, yeah, if you're going for a 40-minute ride, an hour ride, 2-hour ride, maybe. But on a long distance trip like this, that extra 70 pounds of weight difference between an e-bike and a regular bike, and all the charging considerations, and also regular bikes are better machines than e-bikes for biking, because most of them, or the better ones, have a derailleur in front and have a derailleur in the back. So they have 3 gears in front, 9 gears in the back, and that gives you 27 gears. So you can, when you get to an uphill, it's much easier to go uphill on a regular good quality bike than being on an e-bike and not being able to use the motor. So again, every time somebody asks me about like, hey, do you recommend to go with an e-bike or a bike, I was asking them, what's your emergency? So what emergency looks like to you? For me, my emergency looks like that my legs stop working. So for me, because I need the more, like if my back hurts, then my legs get disabled entirely, like they don't work. So if I'm in the middle of somewhere with no shoulder, no nothing, and I'm in that situation, that's my emergency, then definitely I need to have an e-bike to be able to get myself to safety. But if somebody's emergency does not involve that concern, then certainly riding a bike is much easier than riding an e-bike physically. There's a lot more to this. So for a person who has never done a e-bike long distancing trip, what I just said makes absolutely no sense, especially if you are an actual biker and you sit on your bicycle and you go for a ride with a friend for a couple of hours. You're looking at me right now and thinking, oh, that's bullshit. I'm sure my friend is not putting as much effort as I am. I totally agree with you. On a 2-hour ride, they are not. But if you guys go for an 8-hour ride, I want to do like 100 miles, and there are uphills and downhills, he's gonna run out of battery. And then you gotta see which one of you is putting more harder work, because you're riding a 20-pound bike, he's riding a 90-pound bike, and you're riding a better bike with better gears, he's riding crap comparing to you if he doesn't have a motor. So now tell me which one of you will put more energy into that ride, right? So again, riding an e-bike for long distance trips is very different and much harder than you would imagine, and all the planning and everything else that goes with it. Anyways, have to use the bike while it's off for a big portion of today, then so I can actually get enough range to be able to get to my destination. Have hard day to go, but beautiful day, and I have a very hard deadline, otherwise I'm gonna lose my reservation. But the good news is that when I get to my destination is an amazing hotel. Apparently it's like quality like last night's hotel, and I have to stay there for 2 nights because they wouldn't accept a 1-night reservation. So I'm also excited about that because I'm actually sick. I'm actually really sick, like cold wise. So after this, when I get to my destination, having an extra day of rest would be great. And then after that, I have another 4.5-hour ride and get myself to Novato. And Novato is few miles away from San Francisco, but I'm gonna stay in Novato for a whole week, and then I can rest and I can kind of get back to my health before continuing going the second half of the trip, which is from San Francisco to San Diego. Excited that you're riding with me today. Let's do this. Now, this is the type of uphill I'm talking about, that if you have a regular bike with much better drivetrain, it's much easier to go than having an e-bike that you can't use the motor. Now, I still can use my motor, but I wanted to use only 20% to go up here. It's not doable because I don't have enough proper gears to be able to do that. So I had to go to 40%. But the problem with that is that will cause me to run out of battery. So if I'm using the motor here at 40%, that means there's going to be another section that I turn off the motor for the entire time, 100%. Otherwise I'm not going to be able to reach my destination, especially at the very, very end of my trip. I'm going to have another uphill. Look at this, like the car can't even go up. I mean, look at this car passing me. Even the car has hard time going up. And I'm using 100% on my motor, and it still can't. I mean, I can't even stand there and go up from there. I have to do a zigzag to be able to get. Oh, fuck. Okay. Anyways, that is today. But look at the view. So I am suffering looking at one of the most beautiful views in the world. My eating strategy is that usually I get on the bike, I bike for about an hour, and then I eat either an RX bar, which has 3 egg whites, 2 dates, and some other goodies, or I eat a kind bar, which has lots of nuts. And then again, an hour after that, I eat a little bit of either jerkies or maybe a pepperoni or something, and sometimes that's it for a 4-hour ride. And then if I have a 5-hour ride, I definitely eat 3 times, right? But today, because it was a 6.5-hour ride, I was a little bit sick. I thought maybe the better thing is that I have a breakfast at the hotel I was staying at, because they had breakfast. It was on the room as well, so I thought I would have it. So I'm about an hour into my biking, and I'm really still feeling good, which is great because I need a lot of energy, and because I have a deadline to get to my destination today, I don't have a lot of time to stop. So I am going to have 2 stops today for sure, and that's for changing the battery, because to get to my destination I need to use all my 3 batteries. Hopefully I'm not going to run out of battery today and range. But anyways, so far we are doing really well. I've come about 12 miles and I'm still my first battery. I've used it only about 20%, which maybe 30%, which is really good, because if I can get about 28 miles out of this battery and 28 miles out of my next one, then I can ride the bike very fast on my last battery, because I'll need it only for 14 miles. Anyways, back again to bike. This is uphill and it's killing me, but it's gorgeous. $15 miles. It's gonna be like this, and no shoulder, and the speed limit here is 45 miles for the cars, and I am going a whopping 3.5 miles per hour. ocean. You can see this lone tree here, but do you see how the tree is bent to the left? It's because of the wind from the ocean. Building. That's someone's house, I believe. Oh no, it's a business. It's a restaurant. It looks pretty. Very pretty, for that matter. It just says entrance. There's no name. Oh, there is a name. Right on this side is no. It just says 36601 entrance. So it is 36601 Coast Highway in California. Didn't see the name. It looked really pretty. That's the Sea Ranch Chapel. Hope that I'm taking it. That's very interesting design of the building. Every day of this trip has been about one thing. Some days have been about flat tires. Some days have been about learning how to cross bridges or tunnels. And some days have been about figuring out the camping gear or dinner. And past few days have just been amazing and quiet. And today it's about the battery range thing, because as I mentioned earlier, I'm pushing the bike to go further than the range than it has, comparing to the uphills and downhills. And I explained this a little bit before, that I mean, the range of an e-bike is not a simple matter to just say, hey, what's the range? 25 miles. Nah, that doesn't make any sense. Like, it's not the way that it is. It's like, what's the range of the bike? Well, it depends. Uphill, downhill, straight, flat. Is going to be wind against me? How much weight am I going to have? All of those things change the range drastically. And at the end of the day, the range is all about one thing: how much power you will ask from the motor to go to the tires. That's it. So you can use the same e-bike on the exact same path and go with it for 14 miles, because you have a 500 watt hour battery and you used your entire 500 watt motor the entire way. And so after an hour and going like 15-16 miles, maybe 14 miles, it finished. And you can go 80 miles, maybe not 80 miles, but maybe like 60 miles if you are using it only 100 watts and the rest of it you're pedaling, and you can pedal for a long time. So what's the range of an e-bike? It's the size of your battery and the size of the and the power that you use from your motor. That's it. That's the only way to explain this. But then you get used to your numbers, so you will know your numbers based on the terrain, and then you can calculate. So for me, on a path that has lots of uphills and downhills, like when I'm supposed to go 4,000 feet up and another 3,500 feet down, and in a matter of I don't know, like a matter of like 4 hours, then I know each of my batteries, if I used about 200 watts, give me 28 miles, and if I use about 400 watts, give me about 22 miles. But things can get more complicated because you can also program your controller, and that's something I did yesterday, and I'm so glad I did that yesterday. So yesterday I went to my controller of the bike and I decreased the power that the controller sends to the motor by 25%. That's immediate 25% gain in range. Now, will I get the same amount of power to my motor? No, I have to pedal harder. But now, instead of 22 miles, with my program 4, I can go maybe 20, I'm calculating this in my mind, but it's about 28 miles, 27 miles, right? So, what that means is that when I'm using the maximum power of the motor, although it's 25% less, it's still a lot of power. But I have an extended range. It means that I don't need to keep calculating numbers for making sure I get good range. So, long story short is that because I changed the power of the motor yesterday by 25%, I was able today to get over 30 miles from one of my batteries from the Pedal Assist 2, and then I changed it because I still had half a battery left, but then maybe 40% of my battery was left, but then I changed it at that point because here is one thing: when your battery is too low and you need to use the throttle to full force for an emergency situation, there is a chance that your power shuts down. So now you are in this urgent situation, emergency situation, you really need full power of the motor, and then suddenly bike shuts down, and that can be very dangerous. So if I know that I'm about to hit some uphills and I may need to use the motor to its full power for a second or two, I change the battery. But then because I was able to get 30 miles from one battery, I had 70 miles to go, and I was counting on each battery for 22 miles, which would give me 66 miles in total, right? But then with all the changes I made, then I got this extended range, right? So I went over 30 miles with one battery, and I changed it. So now if I can get from the second battery only 25 miles, that's gonna be 55 miles in total from two batteries, and that means that I can use my last battery and go only 15 miles, which is easily the battery goes. As I said, the battery easily gives about 22 miles in my situation. So today's problem got solved, but I've been thinking and problem solving this for the last 3 days to be able to do it in a way that I can safely get to my destination. And here is another piece to that: knowing how to program the controller of your e-bike is very important. And that was one of the things that I had to learn when I got on the road. And I got lucky because the person that I bought my controller from. It's very responsive and very supportive, and I sent a message. It's called Electrobike World. Their name of their company is Electrobike World, and I emailed him and I said, hey, is there any way you can send me the full manual for the controller and how I should program some more details. So like there are standard like controller settings that come. I already just use those, but nobody actually goes and reads the 100-page manual. But I asked for it and I read a big portion of it to be able to program the controller of the bike. I'm glad I did that because, as I said yesterday, as I was trying to figure out like different solutions to today's challenge, suddenly I remember that one of the things I can do is decreasing the power that the controller sends to the motor, and I mean that gave me immediate 25% extended range to the battery, which means that I haven't tested this a lot, but there is a chance that now with these new settings on my program 2, I can go about 90 miles with this bike. Program 1 over 100 miles. Obviously with program 1 would be very hard to go extreme uphills like some of the uphills we had here, but I mean anywhere flat, I mean on most flats I turn the bike off anyways, or downhills I turn off the bike anyways. But yeah, but if there is an extended range of flat, I think easily with one battery I can get around 40 miles with the current program. If not 40, I can easily get 35 miles. So that's really good because with 3 batteries that means I get over 100 or 100 miles, or maybe even 120 miles with program 1 on flat. I mean, I don't think I can stand the saddle for that long because that will require about 10 hours on the bike. I usually calculate every hour 12 miles, so 120 miles is about like 10 hours, but that's good theoretical number to have. Climbing up for the last 30 minutes and still There is no sight to empty. I'm really, really glad that I followed the strategy I followed today, because with how tired I am today right now, and all the this amount of going uphill and still needing to go uphill, there have been maybe a minute or two of downhill, very quick downhills, and all the rest of it has been uphill as it's still going up. I feel like there's going to be a small downhill here as well again before it goes uphill one more time. Oh, and by the way, remember a few nights ago in the range I was telling you that I fell on the bridge? So there was a bridge in the range where I stayed 2 nights ago, and it was a suspension bridge. I was crossing my bike. They told me, hey, you can go. I shouldn't have. And the bridge was very wobbly. Long story short, I kind of half fell in the middle of the bridge, and my finger got stuck between the bike and the suspension ropes, and I didn't think of it as much that night, but then today my thumb and my left forearm, all of it hurts, and I'm a lefty, so my main hand actually hurts really, really, really badly. So I don't think it's actually a major thing, it just hurts. Anyways, that's another thing I'm dealing with today. And probably I've reached the downhills again. So I don't know if the rest of the road is going to be downhill or not. But we gotta see. Look at that beautiful ocean in front of me. Interesting that in this part, ocean is to my left. All the trip, ocean has been to my right. But this particular point, ocean is to my left. By the way, I'm very, very, very impressed with Rad's brake power. I mean, this is 410-pound bike right now with me on my gear. I'm going down these downhills like this is 15 miles per hour downhill. And I'm riding at 25 miles per hour, and easily I get to 15. I'll just turn and continue going back again at 25-30 miles per hour. And I mean, I have to adjust the brakes every morning. That's just my regular maintenance that I do every day. I check the brakes, I check the batteries, I check the tires, right? Regular maintenance on a long distance trip. But I am very impressed. I've ridden this bike around 1,000 miles right now, 1,600 kilometers, maybe even more. Yeah, because definitely more, probably 1,500 miles. I've ridden this bike for 1,500 miles, and that's about 2,500 kilometers, and that's more. That's like, I don't know, something like that. Who cares? And then all that, and I'm still on the factory brakes. And I took it to Revolution Bicycle when I was in Arcata, and I asked them about checking the brakes, and they said at least it has another 50% left for front, about 40% left for the back. That's very, very, very impressive for the brakes, for the weight and the amount of downhills and uphills that I go, and the brakes being so amazing. So amazing job, Brad, on the brakes. Getting to my destination in the next few minutes. This is a kind of a, I believe it's a more of a romantic hotel, but I couldn't find a venue like a regular hotel or something that would work for my destination and distance and the range. So the place that I'm going to probably is going to be beautiful. It was worth recording some videos inside. I will. I think that they said they have dinner, so probably I'm going to have dinner here, and I'm going to take a shower. I'm very tired. It's been about 7 hours that I've been riding, and my whole face is full of sand somewhere. Anyways, I'm almost there, and tomorrow I'm not riding the bike. Tomorrow I'm staying in this place and resting, because also the only way they would accept booking was for 2 nights, and I was like, you know what, if I'm riding 70 miles back to back, then I may as well sit here and rest. Wait a second. That's the generator is here to my right. Yeah, so Google says where I need to go is much further ahead to the left, but I'm passing a sign that it's just right here. So I'm gonna go figure myself out, see if this is where I'm supposed to go, and then or where's the one that Google suggests. Anyways, I'll record an update if necessary. Bye for now, and see you tomorrow. See you the day after tomorrow.